This is a tutorial of the slider attribute field for the widget creator by Unlimited Elements. To add a slider control, you need to click Add Attribute. In the attribute type, we're going to search for slider and we're going to give it a name. So we need to decide what the slider is going to do, what it's going to affect in the page. So for example, I'm just going to make my div bigger and higher. So I'm going to call it size, and I need to give it a default value. I'm going to give it a default value of 100, and I need to give it a minimum and maximum for the slider. So sliders have starting point and ending points. I'm going to say the minimum is going to be 50. That's the minimum size, and the maximum size is going to be 300. Each step I want to jump 10 pixels and not just 1 pixel. The next thing you need to decide are the units. So you have all sorts of unit types over here. I'm going to leave it pixels because that's what I want it to affect and how to affect. And a CSS selector. This CSS selector is important since later on we need to put it in the HTML. I'm going to call my CSS selector example. Down here, we need to put the value that we want this slider to output. So right now what it's going to output is a width with the value, the size is the value, and the units that you put here, or a user can change the units if you put a multi-select unit. Right now the user won't be able to change the units. So this is good for me, and I'm going to duplicate it and I'm going to write height. So what's going to happen is that this one slider, which is size, it's going to change the width and the height as well. I'm going to click Add Attribute and it's added to the list. Inside of the HTML, I'm just going to add a div and give it a class, which is the same class that we used earlier, and I'm going to give it an inline style just so we can see it and it's not transparent. Now we can test how our new attribute is working. So I'm going to go into Pages, add a new page, going to call it Slider Test. And in the widgets pane that's opening in Elementor, I'm going to search for that exact widget. We called it slider tutorial, I think. And I'm going to drag it inside. So over here, this is our slider. And you can see we defined a default value of 100. That's why the slider is over here right now. And over here it says 100. And the minimum size is 50. And the maximum size is 300. So this is very, very cool. And it's affecting the height and the width, which we determined earlier. So that was a quick tutorial of how to use the slider attribute.